I surrender to the Almighty, my mind, speech, and body. Vanakkam, we are reading this book called Thirukkural, written by Thiruvalluvar. This is a book that talks about how to live our married life in a way so as to reach higher states of existence called as Padam and ultimately reach our destination called Veedu. The way of living the married life is called as Il Aram. The term Aram means the order that is found in nature. And Valluvar shows us how to apply the principles of Aram to our married life. The author Valluvar says that when we live our Ilaram in the way that he shows us, then we would have fully immersed ourselves in the attachments of life and we would even attain fame. After that, we would automatically reach a stage of life called as Thuravu, where we would want to let go of the attachments and expand our circle of love to all of creation. The Aram for that stage of life is called as Thuravaram, and this is the way to reach our final destination, what we call as Mukti or Veedu, which is a space of endless bliss. We are in the first chapter called as Kadavul Vaazhthu in the Payira of the Arathu Paal. This chapter talks about God and the different ways to reach Him. In this chapter there are 10 Kurals, and in all the Kurals, Valluvar showed us how to surrender our mind, speech and body to the higher power to liberate ourselves from the cycle of rebirths. I will now give a quick summary of the Kurals that we have seen so far. Kural 1 showed us how God is fundamental to creation, just as how the sound A is fundamental to the creation of all languages. In Kural 2, we saw how our education can be a journey towards Veedu. That is, from education we move to knowledge and then to discipline, to love and finally to unconditional love called as Arul. This will lead us to a space of complete knowledge, which is also referred to as the feet of God. Kural 3 told us that we can reach Veedu simply by engaging in the worship of God using our mind. We saw that God comes in any form that we desire, and that too in a hurry to reside in the devotee's mind. In Kural 4 we saw an important truth, that we become that thing that we cherish. So using this ability of humans, Valluvar showed a way to reach Veedu or Mukti. He said that when we cherish the qualities of God, then we are effectively engaging our mind in the worship of God, and slowly we can acquire His qualities and thereby reach Veedu. Kural 5 addressed the worship using our speech. Valluvar showed us that expressing our true gratitude to God in our speech is a way of worshipping Him in our words, and this is one way to break the cycle of rebirths. Kural 6 showed us how to use our sense organs to reach Veedu, and this is one way to engage our body in worship. Kural 7 showed us how our journey of life would be without God, and this Kural told us that it would be very difficult even to come out of our worries, and we will be stuck in the cycle of rebirths. Kural 8 also showed how our journey would be in the absence of worship of God. It said that in the absence of worship, not only would we be stuck in the cycle of rebirths, but even in this current birth, the wealth and the pleasures cannot be enjoyed in peace. Kural 9 showed us how to use the head to submit our sense organs to the higher power. Bowing the head in prayer will help us to align our intelligence with a superior intelligent entity that we call as God, and this way we can receive guidance to navigate our life towards liberation. Without proper guidance, Valluvar says that we would be wasting our time on this earth simply playing with the physical sensations. And today we will enter the 10th Kural. The 10th Kural goes like this: Piravi perung kadal neenthuvar iraivanadi seraathar. The overall meaning of this Kural is, those who grasp the feet of God will safely swim across the ocean of rebirths, whereas those who don't grasp the feet of God will sink in the ocean of rebirths. This Kural is fairly easy to understand. It is a good summary of what this chapter has been telling us all along. That is, our destination of Veeda cannot be achieved without the presence of God in this journey. Now, in this Kural, God's feet is compared to a boat, and our journey from birth to our final destination is compared to an ocean. And this Kural says that those who grasp the boat, that is God's feet, will safely cross the ocean of rebirths and reach Veeda. The others will sink in the ocean of rebirths. That's all. Now, there is a reason why Valdavar is comparing our journey of life through several rebirths to an ocean. Not because of the vast size or the depth of the ocean, but because of the way the waves are created in the ocean. Just imagine a vast ocean and a huge wave rises and falls. The force with which it falls will give rise to another wave. The second wave will also rise and fall, and the force of the fall will give rise to a new wave. So this goes on and on. Each wave becomes the cause of a new wave, which in turn causes more waves. And we really don't know where the first wave began or where the last wave will end. The cause and effect chain seems to go on and on and on. Similarly, our karma in one life will be the cause of our next birth, and the karma in that birth will cause new birth, and on, just like the waves of the ocean. So because of this cause and effect action, the whole process of births and rebirths is compared to the waves of the ocean. And Valdavar says that the only way to break from the rebirths is to hold on to the feet of God as if it is a boat, and that will help us to cross the ocean. Here, Parimalagar confirms that those who don't grasp the boat, that is God's feet, will not only struggle but will definitely sink in the ocean of births and rebirths. Now that seems a little extreme, right? That without God it is impossible to liberate ourselves from the cycle of rebirths. So I am thinking, is it really necessary? Why did these people have this kind of importance on God? And with Parimalagar stressing at each Kural that it is impossible to figure out life without God, it makes us wonder why they are saying what they are saying. And this is just my take on why this could be so. The human mind can only think about the things that we have seen in our experience, right? We are creatures of habit. So if our mind has been trained to dwell in the impossibilities, then how do we think otherwise? Let me give an extreme example. I don't normally believe that it is possible to make this body light as a feather at will and fly, and somehow be able to suddenly make it heavy as I want, and suddenly grow as big as I want, and shrink at will and all that. That is not there in our human experience. But I suppose these things are possible for God. We read about God Hanuman becoming huge, and he grows big in size at will, and then suddenly he can shrink himself and fly, all of this at his own will. These are what they call as siddhis, like anima, lahima, garima and so on. So I suppose such possibilities are there for God. See, now in these few seconds that I was describing God Hanuman, the mind suddenly visited the possibility, and maybe one day we would discover the science behind acquiring these abilities. The point that I am trying to make is, when we are stuck in impossibilities, it is helpful to have an entity outside of us which has all the possibilities. If not to become light and fly at will and all that, at least to solve our everyday problems. This idea of God cannot hurt us, right? That's just my take on this idea. Moreover, I find that everything in this culture is seen as a way to reach God. See, in Kural 2, we saw how the goal of education, any kind of education, whether it is chemistry or music or arts, the goal is to reach God. This book Thirukkural says that the goal of even marriage is to reach the feet of God. And this book shows us how to get there. There is a book called Nannool on Tamil grammar, and interestingly, even there, at the very beginning, the author says that the goal of reading the book on Tamil grammar is to reach God. I find it strange that the Tamils have structured almost all the activities with the aim of reaching the higher states of existence and ultimately God. It is as if in this whole life, every aspect was directed towards realizing the true nature of the self, the truth about life, rebirth, understanding what is karma, and to break free from the cycles of rebirth. So anyway, coming back to our chapter, what have we learned in this chapter? From this chapter, we understand that we have many lifetimes and we have taken birth now to learn the truths about life, rebirth, karma, and all that. And if we cannot figure these things out now, then no problem. We will keep coming back by taking as many rebirths as needed. And the long-term goal seems to be to break the cycle of rebirths. And in pursuing that goal, God seems to play a crucial role. And the last Kural summarizes this idea. And with this Kural, the first chapter on God concludes. Now, I find two things which stand out as important truths in this chapter. These are things which I would like to mentally highlight and underline and spend more time with. That is, I want to think more about it to strengthen my belief in it. First is the idea that we become that thing that we cherish. In Kural 4, we discuss this in detail. That is, by cherishing the qualities of God, we will acquire God-like qualities. That's such a powerful truth, I feel, that just by cherishing something, we can acquire it. If something so big like mukti can be achieved by simply cherishing an idea, then it should be possible to cherish anything that we badly desire, right? So, by cherishing the idea of becoming healthy, we can get healthy or even wealthy. Anything that we want, right? That's something to think about. The other thing is that in Kural 8, Valluvar said that just as how we have a body, if we have to imagine God as an entity with a body, then all the principles of Aram will make his body. And when we hold on to the feet of his body, then we will cross the ocean of life. That is what the Kural 8 told us. This idea that Valluvar is telling us that the principles of Aram is the body of God hits me strongly because Aram is not something physical that we can touch and feel with our sense organs. These teachings of Aram, they are telling us how to live our life in tune with nature, how to conduct our life, what is our goal, how to treat the people around us, basically ideas on how to live. These are all ideas, thoughts or understandings. And it is interesting to see that these simple understandings are not only shaping the way we live our life, but they are also capable of enabling us to break away from the cycle of rebirths. That's how powerful they are. These are subtle things, isn't it? Ideas, thoughts, beliefs, cognitions, whatever we choose to call it. But interestingly, they are capable of sending us into more births or liberate us completely from rebirths. And this, I feel, is an important takeaway from this chapter. That is, behind all of our actions, or what we call as karma using the body, speech and mind, there are these understandings about life. And it is these subtle things that are moving us in a certain direction. Most of the time, we are not even aware that we are holding on to some understandings about life. It may have been passed on to us by our parents or by the society. But they are there. And once we become aware of these, then we can see how we have made the decisions and therefore created our present situations in life. Now, if these understandings are so powerful in shaping our life and all the problems in this life, then logically speaking, we should also be able to build newer understandings to pull ourselves out of our problems, right? And I suppose that's where the concept of God becomes very helpful. We create a powerful entity called God who has all the super abilities and is always there on our side to help us. And then we cherish this idea and we slowly become that idea. Whether God really exists or not, this seems like a clever way to get whatever we want from life. So then does that mean that God is only a creation of the mind and nothing more? Maybe, maybe not. That's for each of us to decide. But the interesting thing here is, if my life itself is the result of a bunch of understandings or cognitions, then how real is my life? Then is it safe to say that how much ever real my life is, that much real God is? Either way, practically speaking, this understanding that God is a powerful, unparalleled, wonderful entity always there on my side to guide me, I have seen, has helped me pull out of my dark spaces, many things that seemed impossible for me, things which I would not have dared to do on my own. I have been able to go for it using this understanding. And as I had said earlier, the mind has a way to visit that possibility side of life. And just by cherishing that possibility, life has pushed me. So these are the key takeaways for me from this chapter. As you can see, God is a higher intelligent entity, and the Kurals are showing us that worship is something we engage in to use this intelligent entity to elevate ourselves to higher states of existence. We are given mind, speech and body, and this chapter shows us how to use these things to reach the state of God. So in conclusion, this chapter has explained to us what is God, how to approach Him, and what would happen if we fail to grasp Him. Now we see that Valluvar has written 2 Kurals to explain the worship of God in the mind, 1 Kural for worship in the words, and 1 Kural for worship using the body. Because he has stressed the mind worship in 2 Kurals, we understand that worshipping in the mind is a superior form of worship. And with that, we come to the end of the first chapter. I hope that was useful, and we will start with the next chapter in the next session. I thank you all for listening. Nandri Vanakkam.